Good afternoon and welcome to the 2021 World Intellectual Property Day program. My name is Joseph Ray, and I have the honor of moderating today's event. I am the president of the American Intellectual Property Law Association, and we are proud to partner with the USPTO, the U.S. Copyright Office, the World Intellectual Property Organization, the International Trademark Association, the American Bar Association Section of Intellectual Property Law, the Intellectual Property Owners Association, the United States Chamber of Commerce's Global Innovative Policy Center, and the Licensing Executive Society International to bring you this annual event that celebrates the role of IP rights and how they encourage innovation and creativity. The theme of this year's World IP Day celebration is intellectual property and small businesses taking big ideas to market. We have a great program for you today, including messages from some very special guests and very informative panels. The panels include representatives of small businesses who will share their IP stories. Another panel will discuss the resources available to assist small businesses with their IP needs. I am pleased to kick off the program by introducing Andrew Hirschfeld, performing the functions and duties of the Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Director of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Mr. Hirschfeld's permanent role is Commissioner for Patents, where he manages and leads the Patents Organization as its Chief Operating Officer. He is responsible for managing and directing all aspects of the organization that affect administration of patent operations, examination policy, patent quality management, international patent cooperation, resources and planning, and budget administration. Before serving as Commissioner for Patents, he held the positions of Deputy Commissioner for Patent Examination Policy and Chief of Staff to the Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Director of the USPTO. Commissioner, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Joe. It's my pleasure to be here. And I just want to say happy World Intellectual Property Day to all of you. A big thank you to AIPLA for being one of our partners in promoting today. And I also want to thank all those other people that Joe mentioned. I'm not going to go through the list as Joe did because he just went through it, but I wanted to say thank you to all of the people who are partnering with us. You are all essential to the continued vitality of the U.S. IP system. And we thank you for being a part of this celebration and for your ardent support of our innovators. This year, we're delighted to highlight the importance of small and medium-sized enterprises in generating global economic growth. Businesses that are launched on America's main streets or on virtual main streets in e-commerce are the catalysts for economic growth and success, and they literally reach every corner of the world. As President Biden stated in his proclamation designating today as World Intellectual Property Day, intellectual property protection allows small businesses to compete, thrive, and play their important role as the heart and soul of our communities and the engines of our economic progress. I have a couple statistics that I know many of you have heard before, but they bear repeating, so I will do so. According to the Small Business Administration, 2 out of 3 new jobs in the United States are created by new companies, startups, and entrepreneurs. And small businesses create 64% of new American private sector jobs in the last 15 years. That's 40 million net new jobs. Yes, 40 million jobs. American inventors, assisted by the rights of the U.S. patent system, have launched innovations and enterprises that have impacted society around the globe. Considering a sampling of inventors who are the latest inductees into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. Edward W. Ballard, who invented the hard hat, which of course has become a mandatory piece of equipment for protecting millions of people around the globe. Lisa Lindahl, Hinda Miller, and Polly Smith, who created the first sports bra and revolutionized women's participation in athletics. Raffaello D'Andrea, Mick Mounts, and Peter Werman, who through their company Kiva developed the mobile robotic material handling system that has transformed warehouse order fulfillment for e-commerce, which, as we all know, has grown exponentially this year. Small business innovators like our National Inventors Hall of Fame inductees have added value, solved problems, and improved the lives of many. In our first panel, we'll meet representatives from businesses that may have started small but have experienced significant growth, followed by panels on the role of IP for SMEs and the resources available to small and medium enterprises. We have a great program and celebration lined up today. It's an exciting and hopeful time to be part of America's innovation agency and to be surrounded by so many innovators who are shaping our future. So thank you for joining us this afternoon as we celebrate World IP Day.
Thank you so much, Drew. We are so glad to have you join us. We are also welcomed today by Lisa Jorgensen, Deputy Director General, Patents and Technology Sector at the World Intellectual Property Organization, or WIPO, in Geneva, Switzerland, which administers the Patent Cooperation Treaty. Deputy Director General Jorgensen manages patent and technology and policy and programs relating to the law of patents. She's the first female in this role and is one of 3 female Deputy Director Generals appointed on January 1st, 2021. She was previously the Executive Director at the AIPLA, and before that was the Group Vice President, Intellectual Property and Licensing at ST Microelectronics in Coppell, Texas.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Jorgensen. I lead WIPO's Patents and Technology Sector, and it's a real pleasure for me to be able to join you today for your World Intellectual Property Day celebrations. But before I begin, I would like to pay tribute to all of those organizations that spent so much time and effort in getting ready for this program. AIPLA, the USPTO and all of its partners, IPO, the Chamber of Commerce, the American Bar Association, INTA, and LESI for organizing what promises to be a very thought-provoking and fruitful event. This year, for World Intellectual Property Day, our theme is SMEs and IP, taking your ideas to market. Small and medium-sized businesses are the engines of national economies. SMEs are also uniquely diverse, serving as an important means for women and minorities to commercialize their intellectual property and benefit from its value. Their innovative activities have driven growth throughout history, and they will continue to play a critical role in a successful post-pandemic world, not just by ensuring that we get back to business as usual, but by creating richer, more inclusive economies flourishing with human ingenuity. Collectively, SMEs account for 90% of all companies in the world, employ 70% of workers globally, and make up half of the world's economy. In 2019, according to data from the Small Business Alliance, over 30 million small businesses in the U.S. employed over 60 million people. Many of these businesses are being run by minority groups and women. And in 2018, of the over 290,000 firms that exported goods from the United States, 97.5% were small firms. Together, they generated over 30% of the $1.5 trillion US dollars in total US exports that year. The economic importance of SMEs is very clear. There is a growing evidence that the SMEs that own IP rights outperform those who do not focus on IP. Yet many SMEs still lack understanding about how IP can help them translate their ideas into commercially successful products, and how IP can be a powerful tool for them to not just survive, but to also compete and grow. It is essential, therefore, that we continue the important work in guiding and supporting SMEs in their use of IP. WIPO Director General Darren Tang, who took over at WIPO last October, has prioritized programs to support SMEs in taking better advantage of the IP system to grow their businesses. Your event today and many others around the country and indeed around the world are an important signal of our shared commitment to support SMEs and create the conditions to enable them to better navigate the IP system and more effectively manage and use their IP rights to advance their own business goals. In this spirit, for this year's campaign, we have developed a range of assets to support better understanding of how smaller businesses can benefit from the IP system. One of these is a short documentary that shows how different SMEs from different regions are using IP to grow their businesses. And I'm going to be very happy to share this film with you in just a moment. Whatever help we can render to our SMEs is help that we render not only to our economy, but the global economy. So for this World IP Day, let's work together to ensure that SMEs across the globe understand the benefits of IP and have the support they need to access and use IP tools that are so critical to their success. In the end, these enterprises are the bedrock of the global economy. They are critical to the growth of the jobs that are the lifeblood of our own communities. We all have a stake in their success. So happy World IP Day.
What a wonderful welcome from our honored guests. The documentary that Lisa referred to is available on the World IP Day page for viewing at any time. I now would like to introduce Frank Cullen, Vice President of U.S. Intellectual Property Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's Global Innovative Policy Center. Frank directs the center's domestic programs in promoting and protecting IP rights in both the online and physical markets. He guides the efforts to advance IP enforcement and deter trademark counterfeiting and copyright piracy. Frank will be moderating our first two panels, including small and medium-sized business success stories and the role that IP plays in supporting small and medium-sized businesses. Please use the chat function to submit questions for our panelists throughout the program. We will conduct the question and answer session after all the panels have been completed. Frank, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Joe, and thank you for all you've done for today's event. We appreciate the partnership. I also want to echo the thanks that we've already been expressed to our partners in today's event, especially those folks at USPTO, the U.S. Copyright Office, and at WIPO. Of course, we've already heard the other organizations mentioned, but I want to thank each and every one of those for all their hard work in making today's event a success. You know, folks might not understand the important role that IP plays in our economy. We all know the numbers: 45 million jobs, 38% of our GDP, well over half of our trade. But what people don't realize is that IP, or may not realize, is that IP can be a central and foundational piece of any successful business, particularly those in the small and medium-sized enterprise arena. Today, we're going to hear some great success stories from companies who've leveraged that IP to really make a difference and to really bring new innovative products to market. It's not often that people associate the U.S. Chamber of Commerce with small business. They think of us as the voice of big corporations very often, but the vast majority of our members are made up of small businesses. And as we've already heard before, small businesses constitute, again, the vast majority of our companies. They employ over half of our workforce and over 60 million American workers. So they make a tremendous contribution to not only our economy, but also to our innovative ecosystem. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of being able to welcome some real experts in this field, people who live and breathe our innovative economy. I'd like to welcome the panelists and have them tell a little bit of their stories and talk a little bit about their companies, and hopefully have a little bit of a back and forth so we can really have a robust discussion around how IP benefits small businesses and medium-sized enterprises. With that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Frank Gupton, PhD, co-founder of Flow and CEO, Medicines for All. Dr. Gupton is also chair at VCU and a tremendously distinguished medical professional. So Dr. Gupton, can I ask you to perhaps provide a few opening comments, talk about your role at both VCU and with Flow and Medicines for All?
Frank, thanks very much for the opportunity to speak today. This is obviously a very big day for most of us with regards to the intellectual property that we've generated that create jobs and businesses in our area. So I have kind of a unique position. I am chairman of a chemical engineering department and then I'm also head of an institute here at VCU called the Medicines for All Institute. And that has primarily been funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to generate new processes that can be used to increase access to global health drugs like HIV drugs. Now, from an IP perspective, it's kind of at the other end of the spectrum because the Gates Foundation has asked us to create an open access policy for everything that we develop here so that anyone can practice the technology and thus achieve our objective with regards to increasing access to the drugs. We also have a National Science Foundation funded Catalyst Center where we've developed all kinds of catalysts that we do hold intellectual property on. And we license that technology to companies that are interested in that in the platforms that we've developed these catalysts for. But the one that's probably the most important to you is what we're doing with Flow Corporation. And I'm the co-founder of Flow Corporation, and it's a company that's probably less than a year old. But we received, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, a major grant from the federal government to onshore pharmaceutical manufacturing back in the United States. And that was a $360 million grant. And we're actively involved in implementing that right now. The Medicine for All Institute will be developing the processes that will go into that facility, and any opportunity that we have to create an intellectual property advantage in those areas, we will. Now, I will say that it is a bit of a challenge from the standpoint of developing process patents, because sometimes process patents are difficult to enforce. But within that technology, we will probably be generating new processes that will allow us to patent the composition of matter of intermediates in those processes that will then allow us to be able to secure the intellectual property positions on each one of those processes. So that's pretty much what we've been doing over here, Frank.
Well, thank you, Doctor. It's fascinating work, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about exactly what you're doing and how that is relevant to today's discussion. But now it's my pleasure to introduce Joel Meyer. He's the Executive Vice President for Innovation, Specifications, and Standards at Digimarc Corporation. Joel, could you share a little bit about your role and also tell us a bit about your company and how it's uniquely positioned to provide some insight on the success of small businesses and medium-sized enterprises today? Joel? All right, I'm not sure if Joel's perhaps on mute. Joel, one more try.
My apologies there. Thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, I'd be happy to. My title at Digimarc includes innovation and then also working on specification and standards. And the innovation part is my role in being a catalyst for and protecting the innovation at Digimarc with intellectual property rights. And specification and standards relates to my role in propagating that technology out in the world for many use cases in various industries. And just a brief introduction of our technology. We have this amazing technology called digital watermarking. We're a pioneer of that technology, and it's a way of encoding digital information of objects of all kinds, both digital and physical. It's kind of like a barcode, but it's imperceptible, so it doesn't interfere with the quality of the content and allows much more efficient scanning by computers. Devices that can hear and see can detect and auto-identify objects. And as you can imagine, there's many, many applications for this technology. So as a small company, a patent strategy in particular is really key, because we don't have the capital to build products and services in all the applications. So it's enabled us to license other markets, other areas where there have been dominant players that are much more equipped and capitalized to take the products to market. So then we can take that licensing revenue and put it back into solving the world's problems. And we've been at that for quite a few years, but solving, just as an example, securing objects, making products safer because of authentication. And now, most recently, we are working on sortation of plastics so that we can take plastics out of that waste stream and recycle and reuse them. So those are just a few areas that IP and the capital formation that has allowed us to have and retain over the years has allowed us to pursue.
Well, that's fascinating technology, and again, we'll hear more about that in a moment. I'd like to now turn to John R. Sommer. He's the Chief Administrative Officer and General Counsel for Stussy, one of our leading brand companies here in the United States. John, again, I'll ask you the same question. Perhaps you can share a little bit more insight about your role with Stussy and a bit about the company and its work before we go back to a broader discussion. So, John?
Yes, I hope everyone can hear me. Can you hear me?
Sure can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Because I can't see people, but that's fine. So actually, the short answer is how I got involved is my boss thought it was cheaper to use me in-house rather than to pay my law firm rates. So he brought me in-house. I'm a trademark attorney by background. Stussy started in 1980 in the trunk of a car, literally. And it was incorporated in 1985 by the co-founders Sean Stussy and Frank Sinatra, by the way, no relation to the singer. And so within 6 months of being incorporated, they filed for a trademark. And of course, in this day and age, you would not want to wait 5 years. The moment you start your brand, you need to get your trademark and plan out what you're going to be filing for over the next, say, 1 to 3 years. Stussy, because it was a little bit late, had to fight dozens of pirate and squatter registrations around the world. And over 10 years, we eventually got them all back, which is sort of one of my conclusions is filing for trademarks and other intellectual properties is sort of like insurance. You hope you never need to have to use it, but the cost to file or to get insurance can be 1/20th of the money you save later on. And you may not, if you don't get your trademarks early, you may not even be able to get them. You may not be able to recover them. So that's sort of my conclusion about, sort of Stussy's role and how intellectual property. Stussy became very popular and, of course, had lots of counterfeiting. And so it was very important that it have trademark registration so it could deal with counterfeiting. The nature of counterfeiting has changed over the years, as Patty will be able to tell you.
I think that's my introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Patty Connor. I work directly with John Sommer. I'm the legal manager. I've only been with Stussy about 6 years. John's been there, I think, over 20. So Stussy has lots of stories, and for the most part, they're successful. It was hugely important, as John noted, to get the executives on board with the budget necessary to keep our IP intact and have a robust portfolio. One of my favorite quotes is, "Intellectual property is probably the most valuable asset in any business portfolio." And we had to get the executives on board with that. The first issue, once we have our trademarks in place, is to begin the takedown of the counterfeiters. And they pop up on social media, on auction platforms, and the copycat websites. There are several companies out there who can help you. We went with a young fellow who had some Chinese language skills because we had issues with Alibaba, Taobao, eBay, for example. And then you'll want to get down some of these websites, which often start in China, but they can be anywhere around the world. So it was great to have multiple language help there. Then our next recommendation would be for an SME is to get a strong trademark attorney in China, someone whose counsel you can trust and you have a good relationship with. because there are dozens of pirates and squatters who file to this day for the Stussy trademark that's been registered for over 40 years there. It's amazing. And as John said, it's cheaper to file in advance than it is to fight them. I believe we have over 100 trademarks for the Stussy mark and logo in China alone. Third recommendation, more recently in the USA, we found some lawyers or law firms that will file a counterfeit lawsuit against multiple defendants, like over 100 at a time. And they undertake these lawsuits on a contingency basis. And so you say, well, how can you afford that? That seems costly. But what they do is they freeze the PayPal accounts of these users, and that's how they get retribution in the end. And that's been worthwhile to us and a pleasure when you go to the counterfeiter's website and there's a notice posted, kind of like Reddit, except for counterfeiters. It's a warning to take down your Stussy counterfeits. And my last suggestion for how you can better your portfolio and have a better chance of using IP with your SME is to coordinate with other industries in your group. We happen to be surf, skate, snow retailers in Southern California. So we just get together for lunch once a quarter or something, and we share relevant topics and trends and issues that are important to all of us. And we work collaboratively to pull down the bad guys. Frank, back to you.
Thanks, Patty, and thank you, John. I'm going to stick with both of you for just a moment because I do think it's fascinating how something as simple as a trademark can be so essential to the success of your business. But in addition to that, the role it can also play in terms of protecting consumers so that they're aware that what they're getting is not only a genuine product, but a safe product. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect of IP and how not only does it enable your company, but also helps protect your customers?
Well, I mean, our customers, some companies focus on mass market, but we focus on the high-end limited distribution, and people pay good prices because we're unique, and not everybody in their school, for example, will have our stuff. And so it's important that it be that they know that they're getting the real thing. And some of these websites do so good and look so much like the genuine that I even had to say, gosh, did we open a new website? I don't remember that domain name. And so, I register some domain names as defensive, but there's the universe of potential domain names too many. So you just have to go after them one by one. And it's just, but it could be the death of the brand if you become over distributed, and counterfeiting can be one part of that.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, imitation can be the sincerest form of flattery. But again, if you have a substandard product and it really denigrates the brand because folks are putting out substandard counterfeits, of course, that's a huge problem as well. Not to mention the fact that there might be some health and safety issues involved in the counterfeit product. So certainly we can respect the need for trusted brands and the fact that an established brand like Stussy has really carved out a place in the marketplace that people can trust. I'm going to perhaps ask Joel to jump back into the discussion. At Digimarc, I understand you talked a bit about patents and the importance of patents to the company's success. Are there any other types of IP that Digimarc utilizes, whether it be copyrights, trade secrets, or trademarks, anything else that your company is particularly dependent upon?
Yeah, I think next to patents, the next most important is really the know-how that we've developed. And so trade secret protection is key. We want to propagate how to use our technology in our patents, and so we can cover broader functional attributes of the technology in patents, but the know-how that goes into that last mile of implementation and working with partners to adapt the technology to their particular use case is protected by trade secrets. So these forms of intellectual property can live together quite well. We found that we're a software company, at the heart, and copyright law does protect the software, but because of our role as a business-to-business play, for the most part, we're not mass distributing software, so we find that those two forms of protection, trade secret and patent, provide a broader scope of protection than registering copyrights. But that's just unique to our particular mode of delivering our technology.
That's really fascinating. I certainly, Dr. Gupta, want to follow up with some of the incredible work you're doing in the innovation space. And I think many folks are thinking that the big discoveries always happen at a Pfizer or Moderna, of course, the vaccines coming from those two companies. But what we've really seen during this COVID crisis is that a lot of the innovation that was foundational was a collaboration between the private sector, research institutions, academia, and the government. Can you talk a little bit about collaboration and how IP allows those various sectors to work together to really create these innovative new treatments or vaccines or products? Because it really is an ecosystem that I think most folks don't understand. So welcome your thoughts on that.
Well, I appreciate that, Frank. That's quite a broad question. So let me try and tackle it from the perspective of my when I put my hat on in academia versus what we're doing on the other side of the fence. So in academia, one of the things that I found is I'm not the youngest guy on the block, and what I find on a routine basis is that I don't know everything, and what I don't know, I try to find an expert within the university system to collaborate with to help us solve these problems. And most of these really difficult problems are right at the interface of different disciplines. So whether it's in the medical campus, we have a very large medical university here, or it's in the chemistry department or the physics department or even the business school. We have a pretty broad range of resources to draw off of. And a lot of our catalyst patents have been the result of a collaboration between different departments within the university. And we've done fairly well on licensing that technology. So let me back up a little bit and talk a little bit about this whole COVID-19 issue, which I think is kind of the root of the other part of the question that you're asking is how do catastrophes drive innovation, maybe is another way to put this. And I think that what we found was that this is an issue about awareness. And I think that there was not much awareness how dependent the US was on our global healthcare supply chain. And when COVID-19 hit, all of a sudden we were shorted. There were these shortages that were created that really adversely impacted our ability to treat patients. And so what it did was it showed that we had an acute problem, but we also had a chronic problem. So the question was, how do you address the acute problem first with regards to the pandemic, and at the same time look more longer term at how we might be able to resolve these problems. So the work that we've been doing has kind of cut across all of those areas. The work that we're doing with the Gates Foundation, we were pretty much shut down in mid to late February when COVID hit, and the only way we could open up our labs is if we were working on a project that was related to COVID-19 treatments. And the Gates Foundation called us and they said, we've got these two molecules that we were wondering if you might be able to develop a process for. And one of them turned out to be remdesivir. And we developed it within 4 weeks. We figured out how to make the key starting material for that molecule. And then the other drug is now a drug that's getting commercialized by Merck. And everybody seems to think this one's going to be the winner in treating COVID-19 infected patients. It's a pill that you can take. It's an oral application. And I think you give 2 dosages of it and the patient will be out of the hospital fairly quickly. And we developed the process for that in a period of another 4 weeks. So that kind of gives you an example of what we're doing on that side of the equation. But then the other thing that we're working on is this issue about the long-term supply chain issues. And so one of the things that we have actually gotten traction on with the federal government on is using a healthcare strategy that we're currently using for energy. And you may be aware of this strategic oil reserve that we have as a result of the energy crisis that occurred back in the 70s. Well, we're in the process of building a strategic active pharmaceutical ingredient reserve here in the U.S. that would give us a buffer to be able to supply the marketplace in the event that there's a disruption to the supply chain. So in doing that, we have to develop new technologies that are going to allow us to make these drugs much more cost effectively than they've been made in the past. So that's part of the role of what we've been doing with Medicines for All Institute, and how it all kind of relates between what we're doing at the university level and what we're doing with the outside world.
It's fascinating. In just a few moments we have left, I would like to throw out one question to the entire panel. Anybody can jump in who feels they'd like to address this, and love to hear from all of you. There are folks who are looking at intellectual property as perhaps an impediment to innovation or creativity or access. And we at the Chamber firmly believe that that is something that is just incorrect as a premise. Welcome your thoughts on sort of the foundational role IP plays in your work, and why that's just the wrong attitude. Because if we've seen anything over the last year, it's that innovation is going to carry us through this crisis. So any last thoughts from any of the panelists on the importance of maintaining a strong and robust IP system?
Well, if I could take a shot at that from the pharmaceutical perspective, Frank, I think that, so when you start thinking about what does it cost to develop a drug? And right now it's somewhere between $2 and $3 billion per drug. So if there isn't an adequate opportunity for the company to recoup their investment and get an adequate return on their investment, they're going to stop making those investments, and you're going to stop getting new drugs. So very simply put, it's the patent office and the intellectual property system that we currently have in the United States helps to prop up and stimulate those investments in healthcare that have yet to be developed. And as a baby boomer, I'm looking forward to those drugs that are going to help extend my quality of life.
On behalf of Stussy, I would just simply say that intellectual property allows us to prosper and create many high-paid jobs in the United States, create many high-paid jobs in other countries around the world, and many jobs in the countries where people are manufacturing. They're all paid fairly, and it helps everybody prosper.
Well, thank you for that, John. Joel, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, well, I would just echo that you want to foster a diversity of innovation. Otherwise, without intellectual property protection for those innovators, they can't attract investment capital, and you have kind of monolithic entities in markets controlling all the innovation. So, or the development, and you have less diversity and therefore less probably innovation overall.
Patty, I'm sorry, I should have given you the opportunity as well if you'd like to chime in before we close.
I could say anyone can obtain a trademark. You can file in pro per. If you're a U.S. citizen, you don't have to have an attorney. And there are videos online at the USPTO of how to select your goods and services identification. It is doable. And you can start up in your garage, and you can afford your first trademark or your logo. I mean, I recommend you get specialized help, but it's doable and it's always valuable.
Well, I want to thank our panelists for a really great discussion, and certainly we could go on all day. We have a very robust agenda ahead of us. So again, thank you for taking time to be part of today's event. Thank you for sharing your stories, and we look forward to working with you going forward. So really appreciate your time today. It's now my distinct honor and privilege to have the opportunity to introduce a message from United States Senator Patrick Leahy. Some of you may know that Patrick Leahy has been a stalwart on intellectual property policy for many years. He currently chairs the Senate Appropriations Committee, but more relevant to today's discussion, he is the chair of the IP Subcommittee in the United States Senate Judiciary Committee. So it's my pleasure to welcome Patrick Leahy for his message to us on World IP Day.
Well, a happy World IP Day. You know, we all know that intellectual property drives innovation and creativity, but it also enriches our lives and our economy. And 10 years ago, we got together, we took important steps. We modernized our patent system for the 21st century. We did it by passing the Leahy-Smith America Invents Act. And I really have to thank all of you for your help in getting the systems that put into place up and running. We worked together to pass the Leahy-Smith Act. We reduced fees for small businesses. We even created a patent pro bono program that helps under-resourced inventors get high-quality patents. And we expanded access to the patent system through the creation of satellite offices. We all work together on this, and I look forward to continuing to build on these successes in the coming months. So thank you. Thank you for your continued focus on our intellectual property system and on America's inventors and artists and small business owners.
I think everyone can join me in thanking the Senator for his incredible service. And now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce the Honorable Chuck Grassley, Senator from Iowa, another stalwart for intellectual property. He is the ranking member on the Senate Judiciary Committee, and we're very delighted that he took time to record a message for us today.
Welcome, everyone, to the World Intellectual Property Day 2021. I'm Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley. I happen to be ranking member of the Judiciary Committee of the United States Senate, which has jurisdiction over patents, trademarks, and copyrights. I'm also co-chair of the Congressional Trademark Caucus. This year's theme, entitled Intellectual Property and Small Businesses Take Big Ideas to Market, as an opportunity for us to highlight the crucial role that small businesses play in spurring innovations, creating jobs, and developing new technologies and products. The program will look at the importance of protecting intellectual property rights, as well as identifying resources at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and other organizations to assist small businesses with their intellectual property needs. I join you in celebrating the contributions small businesses make to improve our world and the role that intellectual property rights play in encouraging innovation and creativity.
Well, I'm sure everyone joins me in thanking Senator Grassley for his service to our nation and also his strong support of intellectual property. It's now my pleasure to move into the second portion of our panel, and that's regarding the role that IP plays in supporting small and medium-sized small businesses and medium-sized businesses. We're joined today by June Bessick, Chair of the American Bar Association Intellectual Property Law Section, and Dana Robert Colorulli, Executive Director of LESI. I'd like to first invite June to share a little bit more about her role as the chair of the IPL section at ABA, and also share some perspectives on that intersection of IP and small business. June?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. In addition to being chair of the ABA's Intellectual Property Law section, I am the executive director of the Kernighan Center for Law, Media, and the Arts at Columbia. And I mention that because often those things kind of go together. It opens my eyes to some things that really need to be taken care of or not. So just let me start with really, I would call a lightning view of how a copyright got developed. It was in the very beginning of our Constitution had copyright in it. That's to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Now, I have to tell you honestly, that covers both copyright and patents. And since I do so much copyright, I'm just tempted to just take off all the words that signify patent, but I didn't do that. So the first copyright law was passed in 1790, and there were only three kinds of works when it started. maps, charts, and books. Those are the things that Congress thought were the most important. And when you think about books, it was really an attempt to enhance the value of the creative, cultural resources of our country. But from the beginning, we added things to our works, to our copyright law. For example, prints, that musical compositions, paintings, drawings, those things I think seem pretty logical. But later it was interesting because what was coming in the copyright law was really new works, new kinds of works that were created. So a lot of the earlier things that were put in the law, and then things like photographs, motion pictures, computer programs were added later. And of course, I shouldn't leave out computer programs because that's one of the most important things. Now, I don't want to suggest that copyright opens the door to everything. A lot of works are not protected because they're not original, or there are some exceptions that minimize what you can do with it. But you know, there are a lot of exceptions to it, and we should remember that. Just because somebody says something is protected by copyright doesn't mean that it's all protected. You may recall not too long ago there was a case having to do with Oracle against Google. Well, the court didn't decide the question of whether the work was copyrightable as a whole, but did find that there was an exception that prevented Oracle from winning in that part of the case. Okay, so what role does it play? You know, in small organizations, it could be something so small that it's an individual creator who exploits the work themselves. It's odd, but it happens. Or you have a situation where a painter can sell the physical work, but gets to keep all of the rights in the work. But mostly, I'm going to talk about small and medium kinds of works. And I'm going to talk, there are dozens of different ways you can look at this, but I decided to focus on two. One is there are businesses who aren't the principal copyright owner. They use copyrights in their business to do a whole bunch of different things, but that's not their principal goal. For example, they might use copyright in a business to keep track of physical inventory, to design a garden or something else, to develop and update to papers, web advertising papers, for example, help keeping employees on the books, to develop and update different web pages. But these mechanisms make the tasks more efficient and sometimes attractive. These customers basically don't license to others, so it's really for them internally, but it's still a matter of great value. And that's why, of course, that will come on. But then there's the businesses in which copyright is central. They license works from the individual creator or from a number of creators to develop a comprehensive database that you can license to people in whole or in part. So you might have, you know, a licensor can collect books and license them to libraries. I mean, you may be aware that probably just about every local library you have has a license that has books online, and you can go in, you don't have to check them out, and that's all cited legitimately, and it's very popular. But you know, there's other things too. For example, video games. I mean, video games is something that, you know, people are constantly using. They're not creating them, but they're just, you know, there's so much popularity to video games. Now, the internet provides an incredible opportunity to create new works, but the ones that come to my mind most readily are movies, music streaming, video games, books, software, apps, podcasts, and many, many more things. I have to say that when I look at that list, I thought, gee, I mean, there are two things in there I'm sure I knew what they were when I was young, but I'm not so sure about everything else. I need to think about that. But anyway, the internet provides new opportunities, but also risks copyright infringement that could potentially be devastating to small business or to a startup or to an individual creator. And it's just a constant, you know, back and forth with them. These people are very conscientious. We will continue to be, There's no simple answer. Copyright businesses constantly work to protect their works through legislation, through policy, through infringement lawsuits, and they continue to try to achieve balance in the marketplace. But it's hard to find the balance that you need. And so it's just a constant tension. And some people would say that there are certain kinds of companies who make a disproportionate amount of money. The risk goes all in one direction. And it's something that we just keep working on. And I just want to say a couple words about statistics. I won't go through them all, but it is amazing that the statistics for copyright are really impressive. Numerous studies have concluded that the copyright industries significantly contribute to the U.S. gross domestic product. For example, in 2019, the total copyright industries added value to GDP of about $2.5 trillion. I think that means, though, we can't just sit around and think, well, everything's fine, we don't need to do anything. We don't really know how effective we would be if, in fact, that was a more beneficial amount of money that is won. And then copyright industries contribute significantly to our foreign sales, and we outperform a lot of other portions of our industries. The last thing I want to talk about is the CASE Act, and I mention it because it's something that is quite relevant, I think, to small and medium businesses. It's something that I think people in the copyright world have tried for a long time to get put into law. It's called the CASE Act, the Copyright Alternative Small Claims Act. And it was landmark legislation that was supported by the ABA and many of the organizations that are here today. In the American system, it said that a legal right is meaningful only when there's an effective remedy. And a lot of people felt that there was no effective remedy if you were a copyright owner in the suit, because it's just too expensive to bring a lawsuit. You know, unless you are one of these people who do it to make a point, and I'll tell you, anybody who tries to make a point through a lawsuit often turns away after a while because it doesn't seem so worthwhile to make a point as to save your money. But the CASE Act establishes a new IP tribunal. It'll allow copyright holders and creatives the opportunity to pursue claims in this small claims tribunal up to $30,000. That's the whole amount you can get in one suit, or $15,000 each. But if you only have one claim, that's going to be the maximum you could collect. It's voluntary. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. This was passed in December. It's one of those things that you don't really think it's going to happen, but because it was so close to the end of the year. But in fact, it was passed, and it's going to go into effect maybe at the end of this year. The Copyright Office has a huge amount of things to do, including writing up regulations. And if, in fact, they can't do it by the end of the year, they can get an extension, but they are moving forward with as much good faith as they can do. So we'll see what happens.
Well, June, thank you for that. I'm going to have to stop you for
a that's fine.
And I'm going to ask Dana to jump in. Perhaps you have a moment to talk about the CASE Act further. But Dana, obviously, in your role as executive director at the Licensing Executive Society International, you understand the critical role licensing plays to help bring products to market and really connect folks. Can I ask you to perhaps jump in and share also?
Yeah, Frank, happy to jump in. Your mic jumped out at the very last minute.
I'm okay now, but go ahead.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'll shift and talk more on the technology side. June covered a lot of the copyright issues that are so important. So, Frank, you just said I'm the executive director of the Licensing Executive Society International, which is the global network of LES societies throughout the world, licensing professionals trying to leverage their technology to bring products to the marketplace. So absolutely, particularly for the small business, we see the value of IP and helping to do that, to literally fuel that. And I have to call it, the small businesses literally are the engines and they're critical to moving the economy overall, but particularly local economies forward. But the problem is small businesses often have the least access and maybe lack some knowledge to be able to access those systems. So that's why the theme that WIPO chose this year for World IP Day is so critically important. So what LESI does is we work to support a lot of our societies, including USA, Canada, here, which is our largest society. Actually, LES was born in the US. Mark Finnegan at the Finnegan Law Firm here in DC was one of the founding members. And from that, the licensing professionals saw the value across the world. We created 33 societies in 90 different countries. So those are in-house counsel, folks that support in-house counsel. Those are attorneys and non-attorneys, like many of the members of the Chambers of Commerce, Frank. They're business people that understand the need to protect your IP, and then really have some of the know-how to move that technology into the marketplace. The ability of small businesses and medium-sized enterprises to embrace IP, though, really, I think, becomes even more critical in light of the economic recovery efforts that need to be underway as a result of COVID. So understanding SMEs to understand that underlying value that I talked about, help them to create the IP assets and understand the importance really will help us scale up. And that's the work that we do. That's the work I know the Chamber does here in the US as well, trying to provide those tools directly. Commercialization has been the business of licensed executive society, as I said, for about 50 years. So training, education, sharing best practices, actually making CEOs that have been successful or small businesses that have been successful, and frankly, asking them what worked, what questions did you ask? That's the practical type of guidance that I think we can provide, and we try to provide so that companies can spend some little amount of time thinking about how to protect their rights, asking the right questions, and then a lot of time in developing the product. They really need to do both. And I think too many small businesses go right to developing the product as fast as they can, and they sacrifice those things that are going to become a great indicator of their success later on in life. So, the World IP Day theme today for small entities, why is it so important? We've already heard a lot of the data on small businesses. Small entities represent 90% of businesses, more than 70% of employment worldwide. But as I mentioned, a lot of these small businesses, although they're creative, they forget about building a portfolio. Well, that's where hopefully we can help. And I think all of us have a responsibility to help them navigate better. It's all about fueling those small entities to be engines of our economy and helping the economic recovery. As I said, kind of a second critical thing why this is such a great theme is that this task is particularly important in the COVID age. There's LESI puts out a publication called Les Nouvelles. In our January edition, Ocean Tomo published their statistical report on the percentage of intellectual assets versus real assets. According to the study, they said the share of intangible asset market value increased from 68% in 1995 to 90% in 2020. So right at the beginning of COVID, already we saw this growth. COVID accelerated a lot of development in all these new technologies. So telemedicine, telework, online education. Before COVID, two new things in my life. One, I use contactless payment more than I ever thought it was. And there's lots of development, lots of small companies that are developing new technologies to enable me to help support my small business down the street. So I can go do contactless payment through the plexiglass as I get my coffee from my small business. I am smiling all the way. Just a note, even though you're wearing the mask, the smile comes forward in your eyes. So just make sure you smile when you buy your products. But that technology wasn't mainstream before. We're all using that now. Streaming technology, same thing. I think I own every single streaming technology that's out there. I've watched many, many movies, including lots of the Oscar favorites that won last night. But those technologies are now things that are going to be part of our life going forward, and really accelerated a lot of the technology we'll see in the next few years. I think another great thing about that study is a lot of emphasis on the fact that we've all been in our homes. We've all been restrained for now the last year. There's an incredible amount of motivation to innovate, to come up with new products based on our new situation, and an amazing amount of capital that's been restrained. I think we're really going to see a great opportunity for more innovation here in the next few years. Last thing, I think something that we focus on a lot in LES is that COVID has changed the way we do business. It's changed in many ways the partners that we might otherwise never thought of to work with. It changes the pace and the process of coming to a deal. So that's something that we've been focusing on quite a bit. And I think for small businesses, in many ways, it levels the playing field even more between small and larger entities. I think it also makes it even more competitive marketplace, which means that fundamentals are important, protecting your IP is important. And our job, LESI just signed a new updated MOU with WIPO. We did similar with the EPO to try to provide more business guidance to companies trying to embrace and leverage their IP. So I think it's a burden on all of us to do more of that, Frank. And I'll release the mic for that and questions at the end.
Thank you so much, and we'll have a chance for Q&A at the end. And June, Thank you for your comments. We're going to have to move on to the next portion of the program. It's now my honor to also introduce a video message from Senator Chris Coons from Delaware. Many of you know Senator Coons has been a longstanding champion of IP. He's certainly one who supports the innovative sector. And without further ado, let's hear from Senator Coons.
Good afternoon. I'm U.S. Senator Chris Coons from Delaware. As a member of the Senate Intellectual Property Subcommittee and the Senate Small Business Committee, welcome to the celebration of World IP Day. Today, all of us have a chance to reflect on the importance of IP rights to small businesses. Whether it's in a trademark logo that identifies your brand or the copyright safeguarding your creative work, strong IP rights are key to our economy and our recovery. We should celebrate these rights, but we should also appreciate the challenges facing America's intellectual property system. I look forward to working with my colleagues to bolster and strengthen these systems and ensure that America remains the best place to bring innovative ideas to the market. Thank you, and happy World IP Day.
Thank you, Senator Coons. And thank you, Frank, for moderating those excellent panels and speakers. For our final panel, U.S. IP Offices and Resources for SMEs, Jennifer McDowell will be your moderator. Jennifer is the Director of Government Relations at the International Trademark Association, or as we all know, INTA. Ms. McDowell serves as INTA's liaison with federal and state policymakers and government officials, and she contributes to the development of INTA's positions on national and global intellectual property issues. Prior to joining INTA in 2019, Ms. McDowell served as Assistant General Counsel, Office of the General Counsel at the USTR. She was the lead IP attorney for the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement and engaged with Congress and industry stakeholders on these complex issues. Ms. McDowell also served as pro bono coordinator at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Please remember to use your chat functions to submit any questions throughout the program. The questions and answer session, hopefully we'll have enough time after this final panel. Jennifer, the floor is yours. Please introduce your panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. It is a real pleasure to be here on World IP Day, and I am so very happy to introduce my friends and colleagues from the United States Patent and Trademark Office and from the United States Copyright Office. First up, we have Mary Pratharis. She is the Chief Policy Officer for International Affairs at USPTO. She advises the Undersecretary on policy matters. She oversees the USPTO's domestic and international policy activities. Within the USPTO, she has held many, many positions, starting as a patent examiner and moving her way through the office. She was also an assistant solicitor, an attorney advisor, a senior patent counsel, and most recently, before this position, Deputy Chief Policy Officer. Notably, between 2001 and 2002, she was counsel to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. She holds a law degree from Brooklyn Law School and more graduate and undergraduate degrees than we really have time to go through. We also have Catherine Zoller Rowland from the Copyright Office. She is the Associate Register of Copyrights and the Director of Public Information and Education. She is one of 4 principal legal advisors to the Register. She oversees the Public Information and Education, and that is the division that publishes the copyright laws and engages in public outreach to various copyright stakeholders. She is also the chair of the review board, which addresses final appeals of copyright decisions. Prior to holding this position, she held many positions within the Copyright Office, including attorney advisor within the Office of General Counsel, senior counsel for policy and international affairs, and she was appointed senior advisor to the U.S. Register of Copyrights. She holds a law degree from William & Mary Law School, as well as an undergraduate in political science from American University. With those brief introductions, I'm going to now pass it over to Mary to tell us about USPTO's resources for small and medium-sized enterprises. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jenny. It's great to see you again, and welcome colleagues and friends. It is an honor and pleasure to join you on World IP Day, and I truly welcome the opportunity to share with you some highlights of how the USPTO can help businesses invest in their ideas by protecting their assets with IP protection. So if we could just turn to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. As we all know, the USPTO is America's innovation agency with a focus on fostering innovation and economic growth, and developing and promoting reliable, predictable, and high-quality intellectual property and IP systems both in the United States and abroad. When entering the marketplace, developing an IP strategy is critical. It is important to know your assets and priorities, to know your competition, and understand the pace of innovation in your industry sector, to determine the best way to protect your IP, develop a plan, and most importantly, if necessary, get help from the PTO. We are here to help you. So first, I'd like to mention our USPTO Assistance Centers. These centers are the front lines in providing general information about patent examination policies and procedures and about trademark registration processes. Both are accessible by phone and online through the USPTO website. The assistance is free, and I have to say firsthand, everyone there is so knowledgeable and very helpful. Next page, please. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about the trademark application process. There's a lot of information on our website and resources for how to file a trademark application. This is a website that has recently been updated to include a whole host of features, including what is a trademark, understanding the process, and how to file the application. Not everyone is required to have an attorney to file a trademark application, but it's something you should consider doing. An attorney can really give good legal advice on how to prepare your application and support you through that process. Next slide, please. And now turning to the patent application process, which is a fairly complex process. The USPTO recognizes that not everyone has the resources to hire attorneys to help them through the patent application process. We do have a Pro Se program that provides free outreach, education, and assists applicants providing legal advice throughout the process. Training and one-on-one assistance is also available to these applicants. The USPTO also, as you can see on their website, has a host of resources to support small businesses through the application process, and has recently also updated the Inventor and Entrepreneur Resources Hub to help you get started. You can attend training classes, understand costs, protect yourself against fraud, and access additional programs to help your businesses grow. Next page, please. The USPTO website also has some additional resources for startup companies. This has a whole host of resources on how to protect your IP, but also discusses how to have a business plan, how to get funding, how to engage in experts, how to seek licensing opportunities, and all these other international efforts as well, how to file abroad and how to promote accurate filings within the USPTO. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to turn to one of our flagship programs that I know Jenny knows really well. When she was at the office, she really spearheaded and took this program to its next level. And so we're very pleased to discuss the Patent Pro Bono program, which is a program that matches financially under-resourced inventors and small businesses with registered patent attorneys. It seems like this is a program that is available in all 50 states. And so what you can do is it's an interactive map where you can click and that'll direct you to the regional program. And there you can apply. Every program has different criteria, but applicants can apply that program and you put in an application and then they match you up with an attorney. This is a really popular program. It's not just popular with the applicants, but it's also popular with the patent professionals. Right now, we have over 1,900 patent professionals that are signed up to provide pro bono help throughout the country. In 2020, the program helped under-resourced inventors and small businesses file more than 200 patent applications and matched over 240 applicants with volunteer patent practitioners. So this has been a really successful program, and we hope it continues to grow as we get more volunteers and are able to match more applicants with practitioners. Next slide, please. Additionally, USPTO partners with law schools to certify law school clinic programs, which allow law students, under the guidance of a faculty member, to provide free legal advice and filing support related to patent and trademark applications. At present, throughout the country, there are over 59 law school clinics that participate in the program. And you can see from the map where they're located. Some just have patent services, others just have trademark services, and some have both. For the year 2019 to 2020, participating law schools reported filing 158 patent applications and 579 trademark applications. During the same time period, these law schools succeeded in obtaining 67 patents and 440 trademarks. So another really successful program that also is guiding new students into the IP field. So it's really helping not just the applicants, but the law students and encouraging them to go into the IP profession. And the next slide. After this World IP event, you may want to attend some free IP events for small businesses. The USPTO provides a host of IP training and outreach to small businesses on a regular basis. We have upcoming events ranging from patents, trademarks, trade secrets, copyrights, tech transfer, as well as enforcement of your IP rights. We have two separate programs this week, one on trademarks and one on patents. And next week, we're hosting programs on how to protect your IP in China. So we encourage everyone to really participate in these wonderful programs. Before I close, I just wanted to share a few thoughts. As I said earlier, I think, USPTO is here to help. We are continuing to expand our existing programs as well as develop new ones to assist small businesses and underrepresented groups, not only obtain IP protection, but to use, license, and enforce their IP rights. One example that I wanted to also mention is a program that we launched last year, which is called Patents for Partnerships. This is a web-based platform that allows the public to engage with the internet to develop user-friendly, searchable patents and published applications related to COVID technologies. This will facilitate, the goal of this platform is to facilitate the voluntary licensing and commercialization of innovation on these new technologies. So we hope this is something that we can grow in the future, because it really enables the patent owners who want to license to put their IP and connect with individuals who want to turn those rights into solutions that will help the health and well-being of our country. So that's something that I encourage people to look at. Again, this is taking it another level of not just helping applicants obtain their IP rights, but really take it to the next level and how to help them commercialize their rights. Finally, before I turn the program over to Katie, on a personal note, just want to say participating in these programs is truly a rewarding experience. These wonderful and supportive mechanisms that help these innovators and businesses who don't have the resources or knowledge to reach their full potential provides a tremendous amount of job satisfaction and pride in the work that we do at the USPTO. So thank you, Jenny, and thanks for everyone for participating in this event. And I'll turn it back to you, Jenny.
Thank you so much, Mary, for that very helpful information. Now we are going to turn this over to Katie Rowland from the U.S. Copyright Office to hear about similar resources that the Copyright Office has. Katie, over to you.
Thanks so much, Jenny, and thanks, Mary. And thank you to all of the people who are putting this on today, including the PTO, APLA, the ABA, the list goes on. It's a really exciting day for the PTO and for the Copyright Office. And I wanted to very quickly tell you about the Copyright Office and some of our resources for you. I'm going to be very quick because I know I'm towards the end and I want to make sure everybody has enough time to ask their questions and get them answered. So the first thing I wanted to say is copyright is not trademark or patents and vice versa. So all of you out there who are in the creative industries, you probably have an idea of what copyright is, and maybe some of you who are in more of the computer world don't realize that there's copyright in your world too, but copyright protects original works of authorship that are fixed, that are basically recorded or written down. These things are usually books, film, music, things that you're familiar with, as well as computer programs, as I mentioned, and video games. Protection is automatic, so for copyright, you get your copyright protection immediately as soon as you make it and write it down. And you don't need to get a registration for it, but if you do, there are many, many benefits. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows, so patents are over here and they're kind of discoveries and idea and that kind of thing. And then you have trademarks, which are source identifiers. And then in the middle, you've got copyright. Next slide, please. So while we're talking about copyright, I'm at the Copyright Office, the United States Copyright Office, a little bit different than the PTO, which is like a sister in the executive branch. And what we do is we do a lot of work with Congress and obviously copyright. We are the place to register your copyright claims. So if you have any copyright claims that you want to register, please come to us. We are the place to do it. We also do record changes in ownership, so that's helpful too. And we have a lot of experience with this, and we do have a public information office that can answer your inquiries. So we actually get almost 200,000 a year, and we can answer your questions. We can even tell you when you call and say, can I trademark my book? We can say that is copyright, not trademark, and vice versa. Next slide, please. So here are some of the resources we have on our website. Our website is at copyright.gov. We have a lot of information on there. So these are just a couple of examples where you've got our homepage. If you're not familiar with copyright, we have an intro to copyright, which is what is copyright. And we have an engage your creativity page, which really distills a lot of our materials into one place. For example, if you're a musician, we have a copyright for musicians, which will give you information on what are the different kinds of copyright that protects music, and something that is a really important thing for everyone out there who is a songwriter, a music publisher. There is this thing called the Music Modernization Act. If you've not heard about it, please check out our website and learn about it, because it's very important to register with an entity so that you can make sure to keep getting paid. So that is one really important thing to know if you're in the music industry. And next page, please. Next slide, please. And we also have all of this information on how to register your work. So we have a portal that will walk you through it, tell you all the different applications. We also have on the right-hand side, you'll see our public record system. This is actually a pilot that we have going right now that helps you search for copyright information. So if you want to know if somebody owns something, take a look there first. As I said earlier, you don't have to register your work to get protection, but a lot of people do, and it's a good place to start. So next slide, please. We have limited time, but unlimited information to give you. So if you really want more information, we have our public information office. I have the phone number there. You can call us, or you can email us at copyinfo@copyright.gov. And we have an entire learning engine series of videos on YouTube. So go to YouTube and check them out. They have everything from what is copyright to fair use. Hopefully a lot of your questions answered. So that is a really great place to start. I will echo one thing that June said early in the program about the CASE Act and the Copyright Claims Board that is going to be established in the Copyright Office. We have a web page on that as well. So if you were interested in hearing more about that, go to copyright.gov. It's in our quick links, and you can find it and find out what it is, what's coming, and we have a bunch of FAQs. And with that, I'm going to turn it over back to Jenny and try to get through this so that you can get your questions answered.
Katie, thank you so very much for that really helpful information. Your website has so much great information, and the Copyright Office and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office do such great work. Now, I am very pleased to introduce our next video, which is going to be a short presentation from Congressman Hank Johnson. Mr. Johnson represents the 4th Congressional District of Georgia. He is currently in his 8th term in Congress, yes, 8th term, and he is a very strong champion of intellectual property rights. Currently, he chairs the House of Representatives Judiciary Subcommittee on Courts, Intellectual Property, and the Internet, and he is a member of the Congressional Trademark Caucus, which is the first ever bicameral, bipartisan congressional caucus dedicated to trademark and brand issues in support of economic growth and consumer protection. With that, we will now share Mr. Johnson's video.
Good afternoon, everyone. The last time I was in the Raven House office building for a World IP Day celebration, I never would have thought that a future celebration would need to be held virtually because of a worldwide pandemic. But there's perhaps no more telling indication of the importance of intellectual property than the fact that we have the technology to facilitate this virtual gathering, and vaccines have already been administered to 100 million people in this country. This year's focus on small businesses is also timely. They are the engine of growth and innovation for our country and indeed the world, and we will be relying on them as we emerge from this difficult year and ready ourselves to face the next set of challenges. So thank you for inviting me here today, and I wish you a productive discussion.
Now I have the pleasure to introduce a short video from Congressman Ted Deutsch, who represents the 22nd Congressional District in Florida. He is currently serving his 7th term in Congress, and he chairs the Health Ethics Committee and serves on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He also importantly serves on the House Judiciary Committee, the Subcommittee on Courts, Intellectual Property, and the Internet. He is a proud co-chair of the Congressional Trademark Caucus, along with Senators Grassley and Coons and Representative McCall, our newest CTC co-chair. Congressman Deutsch has been a steadfast supporter of strong intellectual property rights that benefit brand owners and consumers alike. With that, we will listen to Mr. Deutsch's presentation.
Hi, it's Ted. On April 26th, we celebrate World Intellectual Property Day to learn about the role that intellectual property rights play in encouraging innovation throughout our global community. Progress starts with innovation, and innovation begins with original and creative ideas. Every day, Americans are creating new businesses, bringing their new ideas into an ever-changing and growing market. And as they do this, we have to ensure that they have a fair market that encourages businesses to grow stronger, more competitive, and more resilient. So on this day, I'd like to thank organizations like the American Intellectual Property Law Association for all the work they do to protect creative rights and innovation in our country. I look forward to working with all of you in the 117th Congress as we ensure that the creativity of our communities is supported and encouraged by the intellectual property system that protects them.
We are so pleased to have those videos and our panel presentation. And I will now turn the program back over to Joe, who will introduce our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Katie and Mary, for that excellent discussion on resources for small businesses. Throughout the program, our viewers have submitted some excellent questions, and I'd like to take some time to allow our panelists to share their thoughts. Deputy Executive Director and Chief Policy Counsel for Intellectual Property Law Association, Samantha Aguayo, has the honor of selecting the questions for discussion. Samantha serves as the association's lead U.S. government relations attorney, working directly with the IPO's board of directors to adopt strategic public policy positions and representing the association in Congress, United States Patent and Trademark Office, and other federal agencies. Ms. Aguayo oversees the organization's amicus program as well as its member committee program. She also directs the IPO's external communications and serves as its editor-in-chief of the popular IPO Daily News and IP Owners Quarterly publications. And she also co-hosts the IP Chat Channel webinar series. Samantha, the floor is yours. Our first question.
Thank you so much, Joe. I just wanted to quickly say that IPO is once again delighted to partner with our friends and colleagues at WIPO, the USPTO, and our sister IP associations to celebrate the role of IP in encouraging innovation and creativity. Thanks to all the co-panelists for your great discussion and commentary. And I have a question first for Mary Kritharis from the USPTO, and then from Katie from the US Copyright Office concerning the best place to get information on free public resources on filing a patent, trademark, or copyright application. And if I could start with you, Mary. I think you might be on mute.
Sorry about that. I apologize. Perhaps we can make the presentation available because the presentation has all of the web addresses that I think were really useful for helping them find the right resources we need. I think on slide 3 and 4, we've got the website for how to file an application, what difference are between patent and trademarks, what are the best ways to file the application, resources for doing so. So I really encourage the applicants to look at those websites. So if that's something that we can share more broadly, I think that would be really helpful.
Great. Katie?
The best place to go is copyright.gov. And if you go to copyright.gov, you will see there is a part of it that is, there are a bunch of different navigation parts, and one of them is registration. And there's something called the registration portal. And if you go there, it will have all the information you need. So it'll have all of the kind of application types that you have. It has it by the type of work as well, so you can go look there. So that is really the best place to start. Also, if you are interested in just what the point of registration is and all the benefits that it gives you, go to our YouTube channel and check it out because there's a video on registration where you can see how the process works and what the benefits are and how you do it. So I would say go to copyright.gov, registration portal, or to our YouTube channel to our registration video.
Great, thank you. And sort of on the same theme, a question for Dana Colarulli from LESI about whether there are any resources available for small businesses looking to commercialize.
Yeah, absolutely. And first, I'd just like to say that I think both the copyright and the patent presentations are great, chock full of resources. And we, Sam, I pull you in this too. IPO, LESI, and others can help make those things available. We will. I think on the commercialization side, certainly there's a bunch of resources. We've created a number of business guides at LESI. They're available for free up on our website on managing your IP, on licensing your IP, and valuing your IP. All three good questions, kind of prompt those questions in the minds of small businesses that are thinking through these. So certainly take a look at those. LES produces a number of royalty rate surveys to try to track trends on what's happening with actual deals in the marketplace. We're trying to make that global and provide more data around that. So there's certainly good resources. But then I think the other good thing is COVID has produced a lot of great webinars that we've done trying to provide practical advice. So whether it's through an individual society, join that society, whether it's through LESI, we try to make all this available. And they do try to focus on that, the business side, Sam. So it's a really good advice. It's all culminating in our annual meeting, which is at the end of May 27th, We're doing 24 hours of lots of content on this, and a lot of it will be practical advice. So that's where I'd point people.
Great, good swag for that meeting too. Another question for our first panel. I guess I will start with possibly Frank, if you're still on. Wondering if you can comment on the role IP played in getting funding or getting your company sort of growing and competing in the marketplace. And I think the other Frank was who I was looking for.
Frank Gupta.
Exactly.
Dr. Gupta, are you still on? It appears he may have dropped off. I'll just very briefly say that in conversations I've had with Dr. Gupta, and he did point this out briefly on our panel, there is sort of a cycle that really is dependent on being able to show investors that you have a product that is unique and protected by a different type of an IP. Oh, here's Dr. Gupta. I'll turn it over to him directly. Doctor?
Hello, I'm sorry, Frank, I missed the question.
Oh, I was wondering if you could comment on the role of intellectual property in getting your business sort of off the ground and then growing.
Samantha, this is kind of an unusual situation with us. We had this direct infusion of cash from the federal government based on this unmet need. I think over the long term, in order for us to be able to, I think where the areas for innovation are kind of unique in that when you start looking at this, the technology platform that we're using to make these drugs, in order to be competitive with the Chinese, we're going to have to be able to reduce our labor costs. Because the reason why pharma companies went to China was because the processes that they're currently using are very labor intensive. And so what we're going to have to do is use automation in order to be competitive, which is kind of you would think the pharma industry would be more into automated systems, but they're really not. And so the technology's out there. We just have to apply them into this pharmaceutical manufacturing platform. But in doing that, what it's going to do is it's going to give us the opportunity to create a lot of new innovative ways of continuously filtering, separating, and drying materials, and also creating sensor technology to be able to measure product quality in real time and control these processes. So I think moving forward, this is where the innovation space is going to be for the future.
Great, thank you. I'm getting the cue that we are ready to hand over to Vince Garlock, who's going to do the introductions of our last couple of speakers. So thanks, everybody. Hi, Vince.
Hi, Sam. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce a very special guest with us today. The Honorable Gina M. Raimondo serves as the 40th U.S. Secretary of Commerce. It was appointed by President Biden, approved by the Senate, and sworn in March of this year. Secretary Raimondo was formerly the 75th governor of Rhode Island and its first woman governor. She graduated with honors from Harvard, where she was recognized as the top economic student in her class. She won a Rhodes Scholarship to Oxford University, where she earned a doctorate. She later graduated from Yale Law School and clerked for U.S. District Court Judge Kimballwood. Before entering public service in Rhode Island, she started her own business, Point Judith Capital, which was the state's only venture capital firm. We are indeed honored and grateful that the Secretary has taken time out of her busy schedule to join us today. Please welcome the Honorable Gina Raimondo.
Well, I will begin again. I first said thank you for that very generous introduction. And secondly, it's my absolute pleasure to be here with all of you. I think the theme of this year's World Intellectual Property Day is very appropriate, small business taking big ideas to market. As was just said, I made my career investing in small businesses, and we certainly realize the importance of strong intellectual property and patent protection. The great virtue of our IP system is obviously the protection it provides individuals and small companies what they need in order to develop, finance, commercialize, capitalize on their inventions and creations, and in the process of doing all that, creating jobs. It's our job, the government's role, to democratize invention by securing rights that individuals have to their discoveries. And at the time, it was a radical idea in 1790, but an important idea. And it was a basic concept that IP rights enable the public to benefit from inventions made by individuals who are able to bring them to market. And I will say, as I said earlier, my own experience with our system of IP rights is that it's vital. And I'm proud of the IP protection system in America. I made my career investing in mostly medical device companies, startup companies, and often all they had was their idea and their IP and the protection and their IP rights. And so I know how important patents and trademarks and copyrights are to the advancement and growth of companies, individuals, and our economy. And frankly, it's vital to maintaining U.S. competitiveness, and it is vital that the United States shares our values with the world, because not every country protects intellectual property and respects intellectual property in the way that we do. For the past 6 years, I was the governor of Rhode Island, and when I served as governor, we put in place the incentives needed for companies to commercialize their inventions and invest in new plant, equipment, create jobs, and grow the economy. And today we have to do the same thing on a national and global scale. I'm so proud to work with President Biden. He's established ambitious goals for transforming the U.S. and global economy. Just last Thursday at the Leaders Summit on Climate, the president told 40 heads of state that addressing climate change is a moral imperative. He had a call to action to reduce U.S. CO2 emissions by 50% by 2030. And the only way that we're going to achieve that goal is with innovation. In fact, one of the speakers on the panel that I moderated said that in order for us to achieve that goal, half of that depends on inventions that aren't even yet created. So what that tells you is that our universities, our researchers, scientists, engineers, entrepreneurs, their work is critical to innovating and producing new technologies that will allow us to meet the needs of climate change. And of course, that all has to be properly protected. You should know the Biden administration is absolutely committed to the revival of the innovation engine of the United States, and the American Jobs Plan will provide the biggest boost to our R&D enterprise since the National Science Foundation was created in 1945. We believe it'll breathe new life into our semiconductor industry, transportation industry, power and generation sectors, and into the manufacturing base that has been long neglected. So I want to thank you all who are involved in the IP enterprise of the United States. I want to thank you for your dedication to working with all generations of inventors, creators. I want to thank you for your collective efforts aimed at solving our greatest challenges. And I'll say, we know that the solutions to our problems reside within the creative talents of America. And it is, even though we look around and we're daunted by the challenges before us, I find inspiration and hope in the inventions yet to come and the creative talents of all Americans. And it's up to us to help unleash the potential of all of that creativity among all Americans. And I might add equally, men, women, people of color, in every community is talent and invention. And we need to promote it, unleash it, and protect it. And so I pledge to you to do everything I can as Secretary of Commerce to work with you, to enable you to make that happen. So I want to thank you for having me and turn it back over to you.
Secretary Raimondo, thank you so much for your very inspiring words, and that's on behalf of the USPTO and the entire intellectual property community. We are really grateful that you've joined us this afternoon, and we are even more grateful of your understanding and of the role of intellectual property that it plays in building business and job creation. So thank you so much for your commitment to the protection of IP rights of individuals and small entities responsible for so many fundamental breakthroughs that make our lives so much better. So again, thank you on behalf of the USPTO and the entire IP community, and I will turn it back to Vince.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Drew. So let me just wrap up with some more thanks. A note of thanks, particularly to the USPTO, the U.S. Copyright Office, and WIPO for their contributions to this program, and certainly to the partners who all collaborate on this endeavor, IPO, the Chamber of Commerce, ABA, IPL, INTA, LES. We certainly thank the contributions of the panelists, all the great discussion, the messages from the members of Congress and their staffs, and certainly Secretary Raimondo was a great hit. We thank you for spending this time with us. We hope you enjoyed the program, and we wish you all the very best of the rest of your World IP Day.